You know, it's pretty amazing how some of the most famous verses in the Bible can hide a story that is so much bigger, so much older, and frankly, so much stranger than we ever realized. It's a story that's tied not just to words, but to the actual ground where those words were spoken. We're talking about haunted maps, ancient giants, and a full-on declaration of cosmic war.
Okay, so you've probably heard this one a million times. It's that famous declaration from Jesus. And most of the time, we hear it as a comforting promise, right? It's a guarantee that his movement, the church, is going to endure whatever gets thrown at it. It sounds like the ultimate defensive posture.
But what if we've been reading that completely backwards? What if this famous line isn't about building a fortress at all, but about leading an invasion? You see, that one little shift changes absolutely everything. And to really get it, we need to rewind a bit.
To solve this puzzle, the most important clue isn't actually what Jesus said, but where he said it. He was standing in a place called Caesarea Philippi, and this place had a reputation, a really dark, ancient one. For anyone listening back then, they'd know in an instant. This was the front line of enemy territory.
Now, in the world of the biblical authors, geography was never, ever neutral. To really get their perspective, you can't use a modern map. You have to look at their map. And on their map, every mountain, every valley, every region had a kind of spiritual allegiance. We've got to learn to see the world through their eyes.
The core idea here is something called cosmic geography. And it's basically the idea that land isn't just some passive backdrop for history. Physical places are actually active players in this huge spiritual drama. They're theologically charged, and they're either reflecting God's good order or a deep, hostile rebellion.
And the difference is just stark. On our modern map, geography is neutral space. For them, it was theological space. For us, land is a backdrop. For them, land had spiritual allegiance. We see a mountain and think, oh, a geological feature. They saw a mountain and thought, that's a seat of power. It is a totally different way of seeing the world.
So this haunted map wasn't empty. It was populated by very specific enemies who represented this deep cosmic rebellion. And the whole problem starts way, way back in the book of Genesis, with this really strange story about divine beings, human women, and their infamous giant offspring.
And here's the thing, this giant problem, it doesn't just go away. Genesis 6 introduces the Nephilim, right? And their corruption leads to the flood. But even after the world is supposedly cleansed, they pop back up. The spies in the book of Numbers are terrified because they see Nephilim in the land. Deuteronomy even lists other giant clans by name. So this wasn't some one-off myth for them. It was a lingering theological wound.
Let's just focus on one of these clans, the Rephaim. On Earth, they were remembered as this formidable, ancient race of giants. I mean, these are the kind of enemies you absolutely did not want to face in battle. They were the physical embodiment of this cosmic rebellion.
But, and this is the crucial twist, in the Bible, the word Rephaim doesn't just mean giants. It's also the name for the spirits of the dead, those shadowy inhabitants of the underworld. The biblical authors were deliberately connecting these giant warriors on earth with the powers of death itself.
And this rebellion, this whole fusion of giants and death, it had a capital city. It had a headquarters right there on that haunted map. It was a territory known as Bashan, and it was considered the gateway to the underworld, the home turf of the Rephaim.
I mean, Bashan had a fearsome reputation. It was the heartland of the giants, ruled by this guy Og, the last of their kings. It was seen as having a rival holy mountain, totally hostile to God. Its very cities were considered thresholds to the realm of the dead. In short, Bashan was ground zero for cosmic evil. Okay, so with all of this dark history in mind, the haunted map, the giant problem, the evil reputation of Bashan, let's go back to Jesus and that puzzling statement he made, because this is where all the clues finally come together. And this is it. This is the key that unlocks the whole thing. Caesarea Philippi, the place where Jesus stood to make his famous declaration, is located right in the heart of the ancient territory of Bashan. He didn't choose a neutral location. He marched deep into enemy territory, stood at the very gates of their stronghold, and made his stand.
Now think about it. What are gates for? Gates aren't offensive weapons. They don't attack you. They're defensive. They're built to keep intruders out. So when Jesus says the gates of Hades will not overcome it, he's not saying his followers will be able to withstand an attack. He's saying the gates won't be able to withstand his attack.
So you see how it all builds into a declaration of war?
First, you have the place. He's standing in Bashan, the domain of the Rephaim. Second, the target. He explicitly names the gates of Hades, the realm of the dead. And third, the proclamation. It's a flat-out declaration of an offensive assault on the ancient powers of death and rebellion. This isn't defense. This is an invasion.
And this declaration, it wasn't just tough talk. It was a promise of what was coming next. It was the ultimate fulfillment that would prove that the age of the Rephaim, the age of giants and the dead, was officially over.
And that fulfillment, of course, is the resurrection. It is the ultimate invasion. It's the moment when Jesus breaches the very gates he was talking about, breaking right into the realm of the dead and triumphing over those cosmic powers he confronted that day in Bashan.
This reframes our whole understanding of salvation. It's been said that redemption arrives not only as forgiveness, but as invasion and reclamation. It's not just some personal, moral transaction. It's a cosmic, territorial victory that reclaims corrupted ground and takes it back.
And that leaves us with a final thought. If this ancient way of seeing the world still has something to teach us, if geography is still theologically charged, then what does it mean for us to participate in this reclamation? What does it look like to identify and reclaim the hostile ground in our own communities, our own cultures, and maybe even in our own lives?